Hi. All right. So, whew, so I've been working on some videos all morning, and so my eyes are kind of like, I don't know. I'm gonna try wearing my glasses and see if that helps with the reading. Sometimes I'm finding that when I'm reading, it is making my eyes kind of like go like cross-eyed. But anyway, it's funny because I've been working on these videos on negotiation this morning, and, like, a couple like, one of the things that's been like, a couple things that are coming through, which are that, first of all, that the more you do something, the better you get at it, which actually feels like kind of the most obvious thing in the world to say, but watching it happen in real time, like, even in, like, from minute to minute is, I don't know, it turns it from being just a concept to being something that's, like, really encouraging. And the other thing was, was that, like I started a series. I've done the first sections on negotiation, and it got me thinking about how when I started working on Parinama method, I had left a position as an executive specifically to work on it. And I really felt like I was leaving that part of my life. And it's really been interesting because, reflecting on how when I used to be in, like, the yoga contemplative space, that I really felt distance from my professional life. But my issue in that space was that it was so ungrounded, and there was so much about socioeconomic privilege that was just completely bypassed, which was understanding, like, why things were possible for us, and the fact that the rooms were, predominantly, like, white people, but we were, like, practicing this, like, ancient Indian, lineage practice, which to me, just became one of those absurdist things, where it's like people are just, like, really separating themselves from their awareness of their, like, our own humanity. I was also in that. But also I love the contemplation, I love the exploration, I love the physical practice, but I really struggled with the fact that I felt like the people around me really struggled in day-to-day life, and that they used the practices to escape from that. And there really is something important about, as far as transformation, is that we change ourselves so that we actually impact the larger, like, have a larger sort of almost like natural impact in our, by living our lives. So, so the thing was, in my professional life, where I was impacting people through being, like, building teams and being people's boss, and helping develop people that way, and also building companies and making things make money and making them be successful in the world, that was something that was super satisfying to me. But the thing I struggled with there was a lack of imagination. Like, that was, I mean, I'm doing kind of both now. And I think that is the realization that when I left that role years ago and began the process of writing the book, that there was really like a sense that that part of me was being surrendered, so to speak, which I wasn't, like, honestly particularly happy about, and I felt sort of sad about it. But now it's interesting because in with Parinama, I live in this, like, in between space, like a Venn diagram kind of thing, where it's like I'm not in either of those spaces, not in, like, a specifically professional, and I'm not, certainly not in the conventional, like, yoga space. But that Parinama method, it actually, like, really hit me today when I was working on the negotiation pieces, how bridging these two things together is has this potential, like, it's like, I almost, I'm like, the word that's coming to mind is cataclysmic, like, this thing where it comes together and it's just really powerful. And, the idea of supporting people in being able to really improve, like, what, like, our lives in material ways, Like one of the things, like as far as like having done a series on negotiation, is that, we do very few negotiations in our lives, but those negotiations, so I'm talking about like for, job positions, for living arrangements, for financial arrangements, and even things that have to do with like relationships in our lives that really shape our day-to-day like experiences. What we wake up to and sort of operate within is actually a product of a few negotiations. And that to be good at negotiating is, really is a shaping function for changing one's life. And that to be good at negotiation, there's a lot that has to do with understanding ourselves in the context of the Parinama method with the hubs, and also just like nervous system regulation. So that's my rant. The promise here is that I'm going to read from the book, because that's what this is supposed to be for. And, but like at the moment, it's just me talking to myself. So I'm giving myself this for right now. If you're watching in the future, hi. Yeah, hi. I feel like you will be watching in the future. I can sense this happening. Um, but anyway, so for this, so if you've been following along, and God bless you if you have been, because the last few weeks, as I've been working through the like just setting myself up to really dedicate myself more fully to Parinama and bringing it into the world, that it has been a there's just it's been taking a lot out of me in a lot of ways that are, ultimately positive, but like just requiring my energy. So what's available to show up for these sessions is pretty diminished. So I think one of the things that's interesting about this, and I've stated it in the previous videos, is that that the idea of what discipline is instead of it being a harsh punishing notion, it's kind of lovingly showing up to the best of your ability. And even when that's kind of like scatterbrained and and puffy faced and whatever, that my commitment is to show up and continue showing up. And not that I've committed to doing this on a daily basis, but it's more that just to continue making the space for this. And ultimately, my hope is that I do this on a daily basis, or at least like 5 days a week. So anyway, so if you've been following along, we're in the second chapter. We're at page 35, and we've gone through. So, as a reminder, Parinama method, it's an overarching framework of the hubs, which are the sequential development of the nervous system, organized into really like stages and their associated aspects of our lived experience, like physical security, emotional capacity, like power, individuality, belonging, etc. And then within each of these hubs, we have the learning, understanding, knowing, and then expanding of each of the individual hubs. So for the learning, it's the initial development, then you have the basics and the themes. And then for the understanding, it's the interruptions and stressors. So it's understanding the circumstances and events that shaped the hub, especially in its initial development. And then what we just read through is the knowing, which is knowing the adaptation patterns and coming to really understand what they are. And actually rereading them for me led to a lot of contemplation and some moments that were kind of like, where I was like, huh, wow. That's really elevating. But now we're at the techniques and exercises, which is the expand component. And, it's expand. But I think one of the things that's important in doing this work is that, like my approach on this in terms of framing it is to explain it as this is really, a process of finding expansion and dynamism within a hub, but there's also a very significant component which is about self-acceptance in the given hub. And this self-acceptance part is actually probably the more astonishing aspect, which is that once we have a really clean relationship with ourselves, and even the perceived like imperfections and flaws, like those types of things shift. So it's actually just like without changing anything except the relationship that we have with a specific aspect of ourselves, that we can actually carry it responsibly and be accountable for the outcomes that it produces if they're negative, and also be transparent with people, so that they can, so we just have better relationships. So like the whole actualization within the hub is, it's not just about changing in the conventional sense of becoming something like perceptively different. It's really about changing, an understanding, a knowing, and a relationship with ourselves. So, all right. So as promised, we'll do a little bit of reading. These glasses are kind of working. I'm feeling them. You can see my ring light there. It's blasting my face. It's helping me look radiant. Um, on this, where I'm right now, is this Sunday morning at 12:41 in Boston. So I'm going to read through this, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do techniques and exercises, and yeah, I think there's like, so I'm going to do the techniques and exercise and talk about the primary locations of the hub on the body. There's, on chapter 37. Actually, it actually starts with at page 38 with safety first. There's some really good notions that are really helpful for entering into the practice, that have to do with just like just kind of being understanding, honestly. I'm patient, because yeah, that's something I'm learning about, that it's almost like only putting it once or twice in the book. It needs to possibly be overemphasized, that one is patient, with the unfolding in this practice. So I'd go off on that, but honestly, I'm 12 minutes in, and I haven't read a stitch. So let's do this. Okay, techniques and exercises. So at the end of each chapter in part 2, there's a series of techniques and exercises for both expanding the capacity of the hub and restoring the dynamism. This combination of movements with theory and contemplation is surprisingly potent and powerful. Any implication that a person needs to be healed, fixed, or corrected is an adaptation. We are natural and beautifully, perplexingly, and astonishingly able to survive and adapt in wild ways. Everything in the Parinama method offers the chance to consciously govern your life and to be more dynamic and responsive. In the techniques and exercises section of each hub chapter, you'll find prompts that consider the physical location of the hub on the body. And in this chapter, 7 short exploration awareness prompts, practices for growing the capacity and integrity of the hub, and exercises for charging and discharging. Yeah. Yeah, I hate to keep like interrupting with my thoughts here, but one thing was, as someone who once did a pretty, rigorous daily yoga practice, and even before that worked out with a personal trainer, 5 to 6 days a week. My idea of actual physical exercise had a very, we'll call it, for those in a very third hub, inflating quality to them, about like my sense that things were credible when they were hard. So I'll leave that one there. It's like everyone, it's kind of like reading the book where everything is like, yeah, that's like, we could go on for a while with that. So, okay. So I'm going to do the primary locations of the hubs on the body. So the first hub have bottoms and tops of feet, knees, legs, bum, perineum, and base of spine. Also, the physical boundary and the parameter of the entire body. Awareness prompt. Let's take a deep breath in here. And deep breath out. Okay. So bring attention to the soles of your feet. Are they on the ground? Bring attention to the surface of your body. Can you feel your physical presence and sense the surface of your body? All right. The second hub is feel. Location is hips, pelvis, genitals, lower abdomen, lower back. Sensations on entire body includes pleasure or pain. So let's do another deep breath in and out through the mouth. So, how much mobility do you have when you make hula hoop or figure eight motions with your hips? Do you have pain or discomfort in your lower back? Do you have chronic pain in any area of your body that, despite diagnosis and treatment, does not go away? So, I mean, this is something where, right now you can do this seated, you can do it standing. I mean, everything, like everything for the most part that is in the techniques and exercises is very intentional in its accessibility. I mean, back to that notion that, I used to have this thing that, that any like physical, anything physical have sort of this like pushing limits thing. But here for this, it's like feeling into this, just noticing, don't feel like if you like run into like some stiffness or discomfort, you found something like like to point a finger at. It's like, if anything, what you're doing is you're just discovering it and you're just noticing, it's like that, that sense of like any kind of stiffness or soreness, and really the like I think what's really essential in the exercise is to be able to just see it. And and not that we'll do, get into this here, but a lot of this, the restorativeness of this particular work, is letting it be seen, letting it be known, letting it be understood, because that in within the like deeper recesses of this is a desire, like that really mirrors something that we can understand cognitively, which is the need to be known and understood. And so there's actually a relationship with ourselves that we can create with that, that's like particularly profound, very loving. Yeah. Yeah. I used to have crippling back pain. Yeah. I, so I understand. I get it. I get it. There's a message. There was at least, yeah, there's something that wants to be heard. So, all right, the third hub, do. Abdomen, mid back, digestion, posture. So, awareness prompt. This one's gonna be really tough because I'm like hunched over like right now. But the awareness prompt is: abdomen and posture are mobile, taut, and upright. Digestion, metabolism are effective and effortless. It's not really much of a prompt now, is it? It's more of an assertion. Um, but so like the prompt on this, yeah, I don't think that's a great prompt. But it's more about the notion that, like, so one of the things about the third hub and its physical, like, manifestation is that their power center of our body, which is our torso, is actually does not have any like physical structure holding it up. It is held up by will. So I mean, like, the third hub area is just like a bunch of guts and like spine and, you know, fluids and things. And the thing that holds it up is will. So it's like you have the solar plexus there. And so bringing attention to that notion, and even like even as I'm doing this, I can like feel it. Oof. Yeah, like feel it. And I used to even take my fingers and it's kind of like right beneath and the like the bra strap between, or whatever, like, solar plexus area. As I'd actually kind of massage it a little bit just to activate it. Not too much, but just kind of bring myself into that and like feel that. But like part of it like is really that like pushing down to rise up sense. So now I'm going to collapse myself back down for the next section, which is the fourth hub, which is connect. So chest, upper back, heart, lungs, arms, and hands. And the awareness prompt is bring attention to any tightness in your chest. Actually, let's do a breath. Here we go. So inhale through the nose. Really try to expand in this inhale and exhale. And so in this next one, really bringing in as much just gentle expansion and capacity as possible to just feel against the limit of that and feel just that kind of like achy, like slight achy goodness of a deep breath and so we'll inhale through the nose. And exhale. Ah, that's really nice. Awareness prompt. So bring awareness to any tightness in your chest when taking a deep breath. Pay attention to the balance between an inhale and an exhale. Is one more comfortable than the other? On an exhale, extend your arms out as if asking for a hug. On the inhale, draw them inwards, placing them on your heart. Pay attention to any feelings that arise in either direction, asking, giving, taking. So on the exhale, we'll do an inhale first, and then we're going to exhale, arms out. Ooh. Asking for a hug. Just feel that for a second, even if you do it. And then inhale. And draw it inwards. Place your hand on your heart and receive it. Feel if it's a little achy. Sometimes I can feel a little sad. Do one more. So inhale and then exhale, like kind of reaching up, like you're asking for a hug from someone. And then exhale, inhale rather. And just touch your heart. Just feel into this. And one of the things is like feel that contact and do what you can to like bring that consciousness to the hands actually touching the heart and that the contact is happening here. And release it. And once again, one of the things is noticing that inhale and exhale tend to have like different levels of ease associated with them. So even when you hold your breath, so if you're holding a breath versus like holding a complete empty exhale, is feeling that how that actually can activate two very specifically different feelings. More on that later. All right. How are we doing on time? I'm doing terribly on time. So I like really spinning yarn here, a half a page. So the fifth hub, speak, neck, tops of shoulders, jaw, ears, and voice. La, 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 la. All right, awareness prompt. Boop. Are your jaw, neck, and shoulders loose or tight? Is the tone of your voice pitched and high? Is the tone of your voice pitched and high, loud and domineering, or resonant and comfortable? Bring attention to any constriction in your vocal cords when you speak. Do you have a vocal effect that you're aware of? If so, what do you believe it helps to amplify or protect about you? Ooh, that one's worth another breath. I just really felt that one. People tell me about reading things where it's like, poof, that one kind of hit me. I mean, it's really tough. I mean, one of the things I'll say just operating in the world is listening to how, I just left a voicemail yesterday, and the outgoing message was like this really pinched, um, like super baby voice. And honestly, it's like my heart kinda, like, aches for that, like, hearing that, because like, what a constriction that is, and, and this might be just me projecting on this from my own experience of previously having, like, a very, more pinched and upward modulation, um, what it represents the fact that it's, like, kind of trying to be more pleasing, you know, by, being kinda smaller, that kind of thing. It's tough. It's really hard. All right. So the sixth hub, C. I'm wearing glasses right now, so you can see. I can see. It's actually they're really working for whatever reflection I had at the beginning of this. I will say back. This is full circle. This is great. So C is eyes, forehead, brow, third eye space related to the pineal gland, memory, can be an indication of memory can be an indication of the condition of this hub. Um, and also, like, the thing is with any of this stuff is that looking at it as like fault finding is just like it just makes this whole practice just like slide into a worn groove of like that we're actually trying to get out of, which is these are observations. Like we're looking for things about ourselves instead of like being like, oh, that's something that's wrong with me. It just is. It just is. It's just a thing. There's nothing to be fixed. There's maybe some more comfort to be found, some more expansion, but there's nothing wrong with you. Like you don't need to be fixed. So awareness prompt. Is your brow relaxed or furrowed? I have a little. Do you often squint or are your eyes generally relaxed? Do you close your eyes during any activities that involve your body? Towards middle age, we begin to see lines between our brows and on our forehead if we have chronic tension here. When we furrow our brow or squint our eyes, we constrict this hub. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely something to be really kind about. I mean, I have like this is, I was getting Botox when I was 29 years old, um, to try to, minimize that. And also actually when I was getting the Botox, it was physiologically like actually like creating a six hub release. It's a whole other story. But yeah, yeah, just to see it and just connect with it. And then, So seventh hub, no, as in KNOW. It's crown of head, the prefrontal cortex, and the subtle felt sense of the body. And this is one of the things that's interesting. It comes into in chapter 10, which is really the difference about accessing this subtle felt sense through actually the first hub, which is understanding the parameter of the body and bringing consciousness into that. And this is another thing where it's like when you're talking about the differences between a very like worldly life and then a very sattvic sort of esoteric, like maybe like yogic life, that these things really are complementary to each other as far as how they can work together if they're both, um yeah, if anything that's done with consciousness, I guess, right? I think. All right, awareness prompt. Sustained concentration and focus are the domain of the seventh hub, experienced through reading comprehension, attention span, ability to tolerate silence and stillness. Let's do it. Let's tolerate some silence and some stillness. Are you ready? Here we go. So, I'm going to read the charge and discharge section. I'm having a grand old time, but I'm definitely taking a lot of time. Grand old time and a lot of time. Um, yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Uh, so, for each hub, it's actually written in here this way. I provide techniques for both energizing, charging, and releasing discharge. Charging involves light stimulation and gentle activation. Discharging includes muscular release through mild tremoring. Alexander Lowen, if you remember him from earlier, bioenergetics guy. Lowen believed that humans function best when their charging and discharging are balanced. We blow off steam when exercising or when we need to vent frustrations verbally to a friend or partner. These are everyday ways that folks release and discharge. Again, when charge is held in the body without release, it leads to chronic tension and stress. The longer we hold the stress and tension, the heavier it gets, and we can get used to the heavy load. We almost forget we're carrying it. Releasing can cause initial discomfort and pain, but with that release, sometimes an astonishing amount of energy becomes available. Ooh, is this a fact? It's interesting as people are reading the book and doing it, how this is happening to people, and they're having this very direct experience, and how it's like, yeah, like one of the things about people doing this practice, I'm incredibly careful about people's privacy, especially, when people are disclosing things to me about revealing anything that would be identifying. I feel like it would feel strange to watch, to like to hear me in any, other context talking about something that you've shared with me in a, that's so deeply personal. So it's like, so one of the things that I've been having to figure out is, what do I do with this? Because hearing it is important to me, but also I need to be really mindful of the fact that this is, it is actually like, can be really like activating to hear about in a very positive way, but still, um, but anyway, it's an interesting thing. Charging is how you energize your body with any kind of activity that restores you, such as music, time with friends, enjoying food, and rest. So, gosh darn it, I'm going to keep going. Maybe you can just like stop watching, I guess. That's I don't want you to, though. I want you to stay. So, safety first is the next section. So, we need to feel safe before we can be brave. Indeed, yoga can feel good at first, but we've heard folks say, it feels so good, I'm not sure why I stopped doing it. When we start to open up and release long held tensions in the body, the feel good period of yoga can shift into experiencing emotional discomfort. Both as a yoga student and a teacher, my experience with guidance and support around release was woefully inadequate. Directions like, explore that, and be gentle with yourself today, are like driving without a map. We don't know where we're going. So there's an inability to offer directions back to safety. The Parinama method is a map, but going too fast can overwhelm. So, similar to thawing frozen fingers and toes, it's best to go slow. Yeah, it's best to go slow. Gosh, like I think there's almost like sections in here that should be like kind of repeated or created as bookmarks that people use when they're reading, like, because I think it's like you read this and then you go on to something else and you forget how, like, really the importance of this. So this work can be, this work must be handled with care. It's common that the actual exercises can feel relatively easy. Some clients who are used to constantly pushing past limits ask to heighten the intensity. Yet afterwards, the intensity causes them overwhelm and emotional flooding. So we work to find their zone of tolerance through a gentle and patient process of trial and error. So many of us are used to pushing ourselves. Sometimes I see growing alarm or distress in my clients' eyes as they ask to be pushed harder. And I've learned to slow down or stop to check in at the earliest signs of this. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of us like really weren't taught to stop when it's too hard. If anything, it's like kind of I mean, I'll speak for myself where it's like this like amazing quality that I had that it just didn't matter how I felt, that I just kept working. You know, which had its place, like, but I didn't really know how, I didn't have the capacity to regulate it. I still struggle with it, honestly. So, psychologist Dan Siegel coined the term window of tolerance in The Developing Mind: How Relationships and the Brain Interact to Shape Who We Are, referring to how much of something we can comfortably tolerate. A window of tolerance is not something to take lightly or to uh, disregard when doing transformative work. Part of this process is developing and building trust in ourselves, and blowing past limits to be so-called strong or superior interrupts our progress. Within this zone, we can function effectively and are typically able to receive process to I'm going to start back in. Within this zone, we can function effectively and are typically able to receive, process, integrate information, and otherwise readily respond to the demands of everyday life. If we extend beyond it, we can become overwhelmed with either hyperarousal, frustration and agitation, or hypoarousal, numbness and feeling spaced out. A sanctuary, creating a safe space. Before we need them, identify the friends, music, and other constructive comforts to turn to if you feel overwhelmed. See chapter 11. This is actually also in chapter 4 in the techniques and exercises. Pets, partners, books, walks, relaxing playlists, a bath, a massage, therapy, naps, friends, and podcasts have been and continue to be to be safe harbors for me, a place to regain my footing when experiencing overwhelm. God, I'm so tempted to keep going. I mean, I could just be like, we're going to do an hour today. So I didn't really define that it was going to be 30 minutes, but I am getting a little spacey. So I feel like I could get to the end of chapter 2. This feels like this ultimate test of everything I just read about, which is really funny to me because it's like I'm like, wow, I could actually get to the end of this. But honestly, my brain is starting to feel a little fogged over. And it's one of the things that I've actually watched as I've been reading this in previous sections where it's like I'm still reading, but I'm actually not present with it. And I'll catch that, as far as I even like reread a section last week, or like, yeah, it was really interesting to me that I was like, I just hadn't, obviously hadn't been present when I was reading the last one, or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, I think it's like lesson learned. Let's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna actually like, whatever. It's like I'm not only the hair club for men, the guy who's like not only the president, he's also a client. I think I'm gonna be a good client. Hmm. Yeah, and I'm gonna follow the guidance of the reading so far. So I'm finding my paper clip here and I'm gonna pop it in here. But anyway, I want you to know, if you are along for the ride here, um, I'm so grateful for you. Like, you're such an important part of this. And I feel, in everything that I'm doing, I feel such a connection to you as far as what is motivating me and really driving me to do this. Like, I feel like just the importance of it and just the connection in it, that we're so unified, and that, my experience with this is my own practice. I don't want to represent myself as somebody who is, like any of these traditional sort of hierarchical roles of having like a level of superiority. Yeah, maybe I have, kind of more governance of this concept, and probably, like one of the, like I have a good practice of it. And like, you know, but we're really doing this together, and I just love you so much. And that love is actually a product of the love that I have for myself, which is the product of having, like the George Zimmerman Hair Club for Men being a client, or, the expression I think people say, like, eat your own dog food. I eat my own dog food. It's my own cat food. Eat my own cat food. Anyway, yeah, I really want to express my love and my appreciation for you. And like this work that we're doing together. That's it. That's my appreciation. Is it that like really stems from is that it like you make this something that I'm doing together. So thank you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next time. And I hope you get to watch the videos that I just put up and you like them. And please comment and just like give me any feedback. I love it. Thank you. All right.